Hi, I'm Royce with Viking Wax Press. Today, I'm going to go over my 2024 UFL preseason defensive back power rankings. I'm going to base my team rankings on players who played in either the USFL or XFL and reserve a placeholder for my updated power rankings after the slew of NFL guys signed this offseason have a chance to claim their role. Please consider this a preliminary list. For each team, I'll discuss the guys I rank as the top 3 of that team's backs. There are just too many to go over individually. I'm going bottom to top, starting with the team I rank 8th going into training camp. The Roughnecks take the 8th spot because they aren't as deep on the top end as the other teams. They bring in 7 former NFL players to challenge for those spots, so they could climb for sure. Manny Bunch is their best defensive back and was top 4 last year, but they drop off quite a bit after him. Manny had 44.5 tackles for the Gamblers last year and made the All-USFL team. Former Patriot and LA Ram Diane Lake is solid but may not end up starting unless he improved over the offseason. Jeremiah Johnson was really good for the Gamblers last year, but he too will be challenged to keep his starting role. Other returning Roughneck deep defensive backs to note: Isaiah Zuber moves over from receiver to try his hand at defense. Donald Rutledge has shown tough grit for the Gamblers but needs to show consistency. And cornerback Nick Grant also returns to play for Coach Johnson. Now we move on to the San Antonio Brahmas. Although the Brahmas had one of the best defenses in the XFL last year, they lost the XFL's best defensive back, Luke Barku, to the Steelers. 3 of their other defensive backs were picked off in dispersal drafts. They do bring in 3 monsters from other XFL teams and are supplementing those 3 with a league-high 10 challengers from NFL practice squads. Since we don't know what those challengers will bring yet, the Brahmas are 7th due to lack of proven depth. They are above the Roughnecks because their top 3 are potential UFL All-Pros. Bryce Thompson was the Sea Dragons' second-best defensive back last year and could have the most Brahma interceptions this year. Jordan Mosley started at strong safety for the Roughnecks last year and should be able to take the same spot for the Brahmas. A.J. Hendy was the Roughnecks' starting free safety, and he's a top 5 guy at that position. Look for him to be a fan favorite in the Alamo Dome. These 3 should be locked in, even with the slew of incoming talent. The Battlehawks are my number 6. They brought in several starters from collapsed teams to improve a pretty good defensive secondary. The reason they aren't higher is because they don't have a top 5 defensive back. That said, Quinterio Cole ranks 6th on my list of guys returning to the league from last year. He had 3 picks and a killer 40 tackles for the Sea Dragons. He'll lead the Battlehawks in INTs this year. Spring League veteran Kaylon Kennedy comes over from the Vipers, where he was 10th on my 2023 USFL XFL defensive back list. Can he keep up the pace as he begins to age? Brandon Sebastian led the Battlehawks in INTs last year and was arguably their best DB in 2023. Here are some other imposing gentlemen to mention. Lavert Hill returns to the Battlehawks after making the All-XFL team last year. Free safety Cameron Kelly comes over from the Brahmas. Chris Payton-Jones and Michael Wright joined Quinterio Cole on the flight over from Seattle. Ben DeLuca and Tim Harris return to St. Louis to challenge the new guys, and Anthony Chaffee, former Tampa Bay Bandit, will try to prove he can still play at this level. Arlington Renegades come in at number 5. They're pretty stacked at corner but aren't as deep in the safety spots as most other teams. That said, they've added some key pieces to keep their sights on the UFL playoffs. They added the second-best DB in the UFL, former Roughneck Ajene Harris. He led both leagues with 5 interceptions and made All-XFL last year. Teni Adewusi ranks number 7 on my list of 2023 XFL USFL DBs who are returning to the UFL. He slides over from the Brahmas and played previously for the Renegades when they were in Dallas in 2020. Jamar Summers started for the Vegas Vipers last year and has a strong chance to fill that role with the Renegades. Other players of note on the Renegades secondary are Darren Evans, Jamal Carter, and Elijah Hamilton. Like the 3 teams below them, the Renegades have plenty of NFL practice squad talent coming in to challenge the others. The Panthers at number 4 are at the top of many defensive back ranking lists, and they were on mine too until I saw the top-end players on the next 3 teams. The Panthers also brought in fewer NFL practice squad guys than any other team besides the Showboats. If you want to rank them higher, I totally get it. The top 4 DBs on the Panthers come over from other USFL teams, starting with strong safety Shalom Luani. He was all USFL for the New Jersey Generals in 2022. He graced the backfield of the Raiders, Seahawks, Chargers, and Texans, along with his 2 stellar years in New Jersey. Adonis Alexander was a ball hawk for the Breakers for the past 2 years. Before that, he spent time with the Saints, 49ers, Rams, and Redskins. This team is super deep at DB, so he'll be competing for a top corner spot. Nate Brooks punished Stallions' opponents last year, racking up 35.5 tackles and 2 picks. He'll do his best to make the Stallions regret not protecting him in the dispersal draft. The Panthers also have Mauler great Keith Gibson, as well as Warren Saba, Alex Thomas, Will Adams, and 2022 All-USFL player Bryce Tornadin. Third on my list is the DC Defenders. An already great secondary brought in 2 Viper starters and a group of NFL bubble guys to push them into the UFL era. An All-XFL player last year, Michael Joseph was ranked as my 3rd best defensive back last year. DC was smart to keep him, and he'll get the start at one of the corner spots. Santos Ramirez is number 8 on my list of 2023 USFL XFL DBs. He heads a great list of safeties for DC. Deontay Anderson was also all XFL last year, and he jumps over from the Vipers to start for the Defenders. Another Viper, Adam Sparks, heads up the list of defenders that give this squad serious depth. Kentrell Bryce, Dewan Neal, Anthua Kelly, and DJ Swearinger are all capable of starting in this league. The Showboats at number 2 have a DB room 100% full of dudes who played in the USFL or XFL last year. Therefore, they have proven top-tier depth, including the player I personally consider to be the best defensive back in the UFL. They come in at number 2 because they are going into camp with known greatness. All USFL for the Generals in 2023, 3 interceptions and almost 30 tackles, DJ Daniel was my top-rated defensive back in either league last season. He's a huge addition to this team and has a chance to compete for Defensive Player of the Year. Antoine Brooks was drafted by the Steelers in 2020 and played in 4 regular season games. He was on the LA Rams practice squad in 21 and 22, and then went on to be a starter for the Sea Dragons in 2023. He's projected to be a Showboat starter in 2024. Like Birmingham's Channing Stribling, Will Likely is a veteran of the NFL, CFL, XFL, and the USFL. He was all USFL in 2022 for the Gamblers. He brings his savvy to the Showboats, where he will likely start at right corner. See what I did there? The Showboats have 11 other guys returning from the USFL, XFL teams. Notably, Ty Smith, Kyrie Woods, Jerry Elder, Lamont McFadder, and Antonio Reed. The Birmingham Stallions top my preseason defensive back power rankings because they are bringing in 6 former USFL and XFL guys who are better than the guys they had last year, when they won the USFL championship. On top of that, they went after more NFL talent during the offseason than any other team. The Stallions are going to shut down the passing game of every team in the UFL. Ex-Pittsburgh Mauler Manny Gilbert tied for the second most interceptions last year in both combined leagues. He's my 5th highest ranked UFL defensive back and an all-USFL player last year. He'll lead the long list of quality corners going into the Stallions training camp. Channing Stribling is 9th on my list of DBs returning to the UFL. He spent time with 6 NFL teams, going back as far as 2017, and also played 3 seasons with the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL. He was on the Alliance of American Football's Memphis Express team before they folded, played in all 5 games with the XFL Seattle Dragons before the season had to shut down, and he was also all-USFL for the Stars in 2022. Isaiah Ike Brown is back after a nice long stint with the Las Vegas Raiders. He was a top USFL defensive back for the 2022 Breakers team. Other names to note: Neville Clark, James Wiggins, Terrell Bonds, JoJo Tillery, TJ Carter, and Lorenzo Burns. Man, this team is deep. Chuck Clanton, the best spring league defensive back of all time, should be proud of this new addition of his Daunted Stallions. That's it for today. Comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Again, this has been Royce with Viking Wax Press. God is good, y'all. Take care. At number 5, we have the Orlando Renegades. Nope, we don't. They've been out of the league for 40 years.